Hey guys, this is Lala Legacy and welcome back to another episode of Symphonic Rain. So let's jump right back in. The idea didn't sound particularly attractive, but devoting some time to Forney still beat wasting it doing nothing. I wondered how many more times I would get coaxed into doing ensembles with her. Then let's not waste any time and begin! I get the feeling the original aim of this has suddenly been pushed to the background. Don't sweat it, I'll sing so it'll be fine! Thanks for your selfish insights. Okay, here we go! Yes, yes. As always, a beautiful song arose in the room. I accompanied her voice with my foretell, and we produced a pure sound that would be challenging to realize with just instruments. As I was rocked by the wave of music, I suddenly felt like crying. I was overcome by an emotion unknown to me, and had to put in considerable effort not to succumb to it. For all that, I didn't stop playing. In fact, I managed to bring the piece to completion more smoothly than ever. The music that spawned contained more emotion than any performance Forney and I had ever formed together. Before I realized it, I had my eyes closed. The lingering afterglow not yet subsided. I found myself incapable of moving or talking. I focused on delving through my memories in an attempt to pinpoint the source of my current emotions. Forney was right beside me, but right now, I couldn't be bothered by the fact she might see me in this state. What could it have been just now? An experience like this wasn't a first time for me, but the emotional outbreak had never before been this vehement. Chris! A voice. A voice calling out to me. A familiar voice. Chris! Forney. What's the matter? Nothing. The moment I heard it, a realization hit me that this voice had been the source of it all. Or more accurately, the emotions embedded into Forney's voice. I heard in one of my foretell classes that research was being done into what magic really is. The magical instrument, foretell. In order to play this instrument of yore, its exact origins were unknown. The player was required to infuse it with magical energy. Magic is emotion. Apparently, those had been the words of some scholar or musician, or perhaps a scholar who also happened to be a musician, or the other way around. His theory was apparently not widely supported, but this very moment nearly convinced me it was true. Certainly, records confirm that many foretellists had been individuals of strong emotion. But this characteristic applied to many famous musicians, not just foretellists, so it wasn't much proof to back the theory. Moreover, I didn't consider myself to be a person of strong emotion at all. It was just something it was just something an instructor had said as an aside in the first place. It wasn't written in any of my textbooks. So back then, I had shrugged it off, not thinking much of it. But... Forney. What? What were you thinking about just now? Now? Like when I was singing? Yeah. I don't know, same as always, I guess. Forney's jestful tone all but revealed the truth. Something was different today, wasn't it? Maybe, she admitted and shrugged her shoulders. To put the feeling of her emotions into words, the outcome would be parting. Was it sorrow I'd felt in Forney's song? The girl in front of my eyes wasn't crying, nor did she look sad. Even so, I was convinced of this fact the moment I recalled the earlier music, even though I had nothing to back up my claim. But despite my understanding, it didn't change the fact that I was unable to put it into words. Anyway, the letter should be here by now. Yeah. Having no choice but to follow her advice, I went down to the entrance to the apartment building. I returned to my room with the letter in hand. There was no sign of Forney. The room was deserted. I considered calling out her name, but figured I should check the letter first. In the end, I kept silent and opened the envelope. The letter I removed comprised more sheets than usual. Dear Chris, is it still raining over there? The weather is not that great here either, but I'd imagine it's still a bit better than yours. Your graduation recital will arrive in less than 2 weeks. I can't say anything but the usual fare to you, but even so, please do your best. I will be supporting you from where I am. I have a lot to say to you today, so my letter will be pretty long. I hope you will read it all. First, some things about Falsita. I understand your feelings of wanting to support her very well. I could picture you giving it your all, rehearsing with her. Silly, really, as I have never actually seen you like that. All I can remember of you now is your gentle face. You always had such a genuinely kind expression on your face. Even in times of hardship, your face would not portray even a hint of pain. You would always play your fortel as if you had not a care in the world. And despite giving it my all during the music classes the three of us used to attend, I became unable to keep up before long. That is why I have always continued to look on from the side as you blissfully played your fortel. But I digress. Sorry about that. I had intended to write about my true feelings, but now my pen will not move the way I want it to, even though there is so much more I have to tell you. The letter continued on a new sheet, as though to portray the rearrangement of her thoughts. I have told you many times that you should do what you feel is right, haven't I? Your answer to that had been brief. Understood was all you said. But you know, and I know this is really unfair of me. Deep inside, I had sort of hoped you would tell me, I think I will stop this after all. All I could ever do was watch you from a distance. You seemed so blissful whenever you played your fortel. I felt happy just to be able to watch over you. But when you told me you liked me and I reciprocated your feelings, I thought all of that would change. But then you departed for a musical institute for the entirety of 3 years, and I was left behind once again. Left behind in those days where all I could do was watch you from afar as you performed your ensembles with Torta. Even so, I felt connected to you through these letters. After all, the only other person by your side was Torta. But all that has changed now. You are thinking about someone else, giving it your all for someone else, and all I could do is watch. The distance between us has grown too large. Your words are no longer able to reach me. I can no longer decipher what you are thinking from the words you write. So I have come to this conclusion. Chris, let us end our relationship. I apologize for having tested you. But it was all I could think of doing anymore. I might be writing pretty selfish things, but even so, it was all I could do. There's more I must tell you. For one, please do not come visit me. Nothing good would come of it. Right now, you must be thinking something along the lines of, we can work it out if we talk about it. That might be true right now. But as you spend more time with Falsita and come to know her more and more, you will be able to forget about me soon enough. No, you most certainly will. And I wish for you to. That is why I am writing this letter. Such is my desire from the bottom of my heart. That is why I am writing this. It is okay for you to be confused. This is something only I would understand right now. I would not be able to convince you no matter what kind of words I piled up. You do not have to reply to this letter, but knowing you, you will anyway. I'm going to put it away without reading it. That is, if I don't end up tearing it up and throwing it away. After all, I still haven't completely sorted out my feelings yet. But one day, perhaps far, far into the future, I will read it, provided that enough time has passed for me to not to cry as I do. Although I am sure I will end up crying anyway. Chris, this will be the last letter from me. It was one-sided and cruel, but it will really be my last. I am sorry for being so selfish and unfair to you. Even so, I believe you will come to understand Falsita one day. If by then you could find it in your heart to forgive me, then that is all I could ever ask for. Goodbye, Arietta. I read the letter several times over, then threw myself down on my bed. Forney didn't show herself at all that night. That is so sad. And so selfish. I mean, in a way, I guess. Ugh. Good morning! Don't you have practice this morning? Wake up! Same old. Actually, the cheer in her voice seemed a bit forced as she repeatedly struck my cheek. While she hadn't shown herself at all last night, I was honestly grateful to her for pulling me back into everyday life like this. Morning. Sleep deprivation? You still have to go, you know. Yeah, I know. Then quickly finish your preparations. You're already running a bit later than usual. I wondered if she purposely let me sleep until the very last moment. Come to think of it, how much did Forney know, really? If she had asked me to do an ensemble with her yesterday night, I wouldn't have been able to put up a performance worth a penny. She must have known that, and thus decided not to appear. Right now, she didn't bring it up either. Are you done? You haven't forgotten anything? Don't think so. You don't think so? Unreliable! Nah, I have everything. You sure? Then alright. Okay, I'm off. Bye! Be careful! Her cheerful voice lightened my mood a bit, and I stepped outside into the rain. Today's rain was heavier than usual. If I walked at a relaxed pace, I'd get soaked. I didn't enjoy running, but getting tired seemed like the better alternative for now. I carried my foretell in a bag, snugged tightly under my arms to prevent it from getting wet, and hurried off to school. I wasn't used to running, and I began to feel this sequential pain in my lungs soon enough. I wouldn't be able to run all the way there. The main street was roofed, so I didn't have to worry much about that. I didn't have much to worry about there. But that didn't extend for the remainder of the way to the Institute. Staying under the eaves as much as possible, I swiftly walked my way to the school gates. It was pretty pathetic that I was completely out of breath from such little physical activity. I leaned against a wall to catch my breath. My pulse gradually slowed down, and the fatigue killing my legs began to wane. But on the other hand, my chest began to feel heavy. How would I look foul in the eye after what happened yesterday? A smile wasn't going to work. Having said that, I couldn't be all doom and despair either. Fal would get concerned and ask what happened. I wasn't sure I could give a proper answer in that case. My feelings were still in too much disarray to be able to tell her the truth. Just like Arietta's, of which she spoke in her letter. I was utterly confused and disconcerted. But time moved on, and my obligations wouldn't just disappear into thin air. I took one last deep breath and headed for the practice room. Good morning. Good morning. Fal greeted me from her chair, then went back to reading the sheet she was holding. Feeling fortunate that she wouldn't be looking at my face, I set up my foretell and lowered myself behind it. I would probably be able to get my mind off of things if I played for a bit. As though having sensed my desire to start as soon as possible, Fal said brightly, "Care to start right away? I'm all set, of course." "Good idea. Then let's begin." "Okay." "Oh, okay." Shoot. I messed that up. Uh-oh. Shoot. It lagged. Shoot. Yeah, I passed it with flying colors even though I messed up at the last part. Yeah! Our performance ended, and I was forcefully thrown back into reality. What I found there was Fal's sweet smile. What's going on with you today? What do you mean? Nothing. It just seemed that your performance was different than usual. I had an idea as to what she was referring to. I couldn't help but notice things as well as I was performing. I was producing a different sound than I normally would. The tone quality itself hadn't changed. After all, it was the same foretell as always, as was my technique in playing it. But it was as though the emotions in Forney's voice yesterday had now transferred to me. I probably couldn't just pass this off as being nothing to Fal. I guess. Okay then. I gave her some vague reply. I didn't think it would end the topic. But I had nothing else to say. Then let us start from the top once more. Huh? It wasn't bad, was it? This wasn't about the performance being good or bad. It was completely meaningless to grade such a thing. But Fal seemed sensed something within my sounds and apparently interpreted it as being a positive change. And she didn't inquire anymore. Instead, she requested we perform again. It was almost like Forney had done this morning. Okay, let's do it. Okay. Our practice session continued without incident. I accepted and surrendered myself to the changes within me and continued playing. I obviously hadn't yet come to terms with the situation around it, but at least I could no longer feel anxiety or irritation as I was performing. However, it was no justification for keeping this from Fal forever. I had to disclose everything to her in the near future. She had a right to know, for one, but I also wanted her to know. Perhaps I was seeking pity, a self-centered hope that she might accept me instead. While I hated myself for thinking like that, I could only keep pondering the best time to reveal everything. But that is all the time that I have for this episode, guys. So if you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up down below, and if you haven't already, subscribe. By subscribing, you're becoming part of a legacy. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!